My main man, Dead Mike, solo tip in his most personal recording yet.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all.
I want to talk about I call this the Pro Black Dilemma. Okay. The Pro Black Dilemma. And what I mean by the Pro Black Dilemma is the idea that pretty much everybody is out to get black people, but black people don't do much about it. And, I pretty much had a circular, I guess you want to say, circular phases of wokeness, right? I went from, I guess you would say, not being woke, kind of blue pill, to being woke, right? Red pill. Then it was like, kind of like the kind of pro black, thing, to, the Illuminati, to, who gives a fuck, you know, I mean, I think I'm in between, kind of who gives a fuck. Like, I mean, everybody bleeds, type of thing. Where, whoever's in power, they bleed too. That's kind of where I'm at. But when I was on the pro black whole thing, one of the things that it still sticks with me today about the whole pro black thing, and it's why it's just kind of falls on its face, is that one of the things that black people as a whole, no matter if they're pro black or if they're a coon or whoever, the problem that they have is the problems that I've been stating for several years now, and that's black people don't have any economic unity. I'll just say economic unity. If you look at everybody else and how they play the game and look at black people, what do you see? Even Africans, I mean, one of the things I do kind of big up as far as what I like about Africans, they have a little bit more economic unity than African Americans do. African Americans just all over the place. They don't have any unity whatsoever when it comes to spending their money, building businesses, taking pride in their businesses, taking pride in ownership, taking pride in actually trying to have something for their family, something for some type of community, whatever that is. Like, you don't really see a lot of that. Like, you see like little micro groups, maybe the Divine Nine. One of the things that I have to say is that's why I'm never gonna throw the whole boule thing in the trash can, because I mean, one thing about the boule that you got to give credit, they do have some type of unity. You know, whether you like it or not, they do have some type of unity. They do look out for each other, whether it's getting jobs, getting opportunities, looking out for one another, whatever. That is something that I can say, I can point out to on the African American side, is that they look out for each other. Well, I mean, that's little small groups. I mean, how many people are in the quote unquote boule or whatever? Like, it's not that many. I mean, maybe a small percentage, but not that many. Everybody else is just all over the place. Even them, they don't all be on code and are all unified and all of that. Like, it's just black people all over the place. And then, don't get me wrong, I understand why they are all over the place. I mean, it's it's a unified effort to keep black people in a state of confusion and disillusion and all other confusion, states of mind, to just be walking around crazy, like, which way do I go? Which way do I go? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the psyop. I understand, the powers that be to just make people all crazy. Look at the music, look at the freaking engagement. People engaged in bullshit all day on social media. People talking about pop the balloon and fucking statues, whatever bullshit comes up on a freaking news feed. People do live streams about it, videos and shit, to stay in the algorithm. Man, fuck the algorithm. I make the algorithm. That's the algorithm. Like, I mean, to be and be honest, the algorithm is, have you drove around the average black community? That's the fucking algorithm. What do they need? They need fucking wealth. That's the algorithm. The algorithm is wealth, motherfucker. That's the algorithm. The money, motherfucker. That's the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't say it enough. It all goes back to the money. Reason, never forget, I know people don't like capitalism. A lot of black people that are serious into the whole kind of Pan-Africanist and pro-black type of, space or whatever, they kind of communist leaning or Marxist leaning, because they understand capitalism. The origins of it was slavery, African slaves. One of the things that they don't talk about, that whether you're fucking PhD level economist or Harvard economist or University of Chicago Business School economist, the origins of capitalism or neoclassical economics or classical economics is fucking African slaves. Now, that being said, I mean, I'm not a Marxist because of that fact or whatever. I understand why people might be communist or Marxist leaning, but at the end of the day, this country is not necessarily 100% fucking communist. It has some type of communist or socialist elements, but it's not 100%. It's still pretty much strongly capitalistic. And that being said, playing the game of capitalism, and then you combine racism with capitalism, okay, all of the isms, right? Black people don't fucking understand how to actually play that game, and that's why I think they lean to other forms of ideological oppositions to capitalism, because they don't fucking play the game of capitalism well. Everybody else, it's shit. Worst come to worst, my people come first. Black people all over the place, kissing ass, walking in the Gucci store, knowing your family poor as fuck, broke as fuck. You walking in and out of Gucci store, taking Instagram. You proud as hell taking Instagram photos of Gucci bags and Chanel bags and all this other bullshit. And it's like, yeah, I mean, those are fucking European brands. Where's the African brands that you fucking taking photos of? Oh, there aren't any. Where's the FBA brands? Right? That's trending, right? Hashtag FBA. Where's the FBA? I know it's black people that they got their own little clothing lines and bags and watches and all that. Where's those photos? Oh, you don't have any pride in your own fucking culture. Okay, I see it. You're just talking shit, but you're not really about it. You're not really like one of the things, never forget the GOAT Master P, pretty much, he had a song in the 90s, bout it. You bout it. Like, a lot of you motherfuckers is just not about it. You're not about shit. You just, jump from this, you leapfrog from one thing to another. You know what I'm saying? You don't stay on nothing. You don't stay on code. You don't stay on nothing but bullshit. And it's like, that's why your family ain't got shit. That's why you ain't got shit. Cause you on bullshit. You ain't about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, one of the things about me is, I appreciate people that acknowledge, I'm about this shit. Like, I'm really about this shit. Like, I pretty much, man, I went to one of the worst cities in America as far as what people think of, and I made something for myself. I pretty much I carved out a little bit of wealth for myself, man. You know, in one of the worst cities in America. You know what I'm saying? And this shit jumping. You know, it's literally in the throes of gentrification. You know what I'm saying? Like Gary, Indiana, man, is so many dumpsters. There's so many people, you know, from all over the country up in here trying to flip these fucking abandoned houses. Shit is going out of style. You know, the thing is that, you know, it's a thing where, again, the whole pro black dilemma is a lot of you motherfuckers are broke because you don't really have no fucking economic unity. You know, you look at everybody else, they got economic unity. You ain't got shit. You all over the place. Now, I admit, and I've said this, other people said this, you know, black people were not taught to be racist. We weren't. Most of us weren't. Even my parents, my mom was pretty much pro-black. She was, you know, Afrocentric, Pan-Africanist. She sat me actually down to kind of, you know, wake me up and show me like what was going on like at an early age. She sat me down at like 5 years old and made me watch Roots, you know, and you know I was like, wow, you know, it kind of messed me up because it was like I ain't gonna lie, one of the things I did get from that was I was looking at white people's side eye at an early age. I mean, like, you know, I will admit, like, you know, some people they don't really teach their kids, and then their kids find out like later that, you know, this whole slavery thing, and then they're like, you know, pissed off. You know, I was already pissed off at an early age, and it kind of helped me kind of gain a little bit of untrustworthiness, you know, and you know, I later understood other things. Like I sat her down when I got, you know, really conscious, and you know, she watched some documentaries on the Moors and different, you know, other documentaries, but and she was blown away by that. She was like, damn, shit, you know, well, a lot of black people only have one side of history where they like, well, yeah, we was just slaves. Well, what about the other side of that? Well, we were slave masters. We were slave traders. We were, you know, rulers, you know, conquestors. I mean, all of this, you know, other side of history. A lot of black people are not taught that. It's you to actually even learn that side about history as far as what actually happened. I would say pre-slavery. You damn near have to join some type of like secret society or some shit to actually learn that shit. You know, you have to like, you know, either, you know, read, or actually if you don't read, you'd have to actually join some type of like you know, kind of basically like almost like secret society to actually learn actually what happened and different stuff, you know, that actually went on, and different customs and stuff like that. But the whole thing is this, you know, everybody else is doing what they're doing, and this is why I say to the cows come home, like, you know, why you talking about you don't like Africans, white people going back and forth to Europe on fucking private jets and big Boeing, you know, 747s and shit like that, Airbuses, making billions and fucking billions of dollars every single day. You know, while you're non-competitive, they're super competitive. You know, and that's a big point. And nobody ever rebutted that shit. Like nobody said nothing. I know people sneak soak, watch me and shit like that. You know, nobody say shit, you know, about it. You know, nobody even fucking like counters it, because it can't be countered. Ain't no counter. You know what people do. You know these companies are making billions and billions of dollars every single day. You know, and they're super competitive, almost godlike. They're making godlike money every single fucking day. And a lot of you motherfuckers you work for them, or you want to work for them. because, they could pay a certain level of money and could live a certain life and all of that type of shit and buy certain stuff. And it's like, yeah, you don't even look at it like, damn, I could actually compete with these motherfuckers. Nah, you just, want to try to get in where you fit in and then get the job and then buy some shit from the same people, and then, talk about other motherfuckers from other countries and shit. And meanwhile, your family fucked up. You got a good job, but your cousins, they fucked up. They, aunties, cousins, nephews, sisters, brothers, some of them all fucked up and shit, because they ain't got no businesses where they live. They ain't got no jobs. It's just, yeah, black community is just one big clusterfuck because ain't no economic unity, ain't no code, ain't no motherfucking business systems and shit like that. No culture of business. You got a culture of fucking slavery, a culture of get a job, motherfucker. How about get a job? Try to be, that's why I say train your fucking mind to think, okay, yeah, get a job, then start a business. So when you have children, or you train your children to actually start a fucking business. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, get a job and start a business. Don't say, oh, just get a job and just leave it at that. Like, nah, that's fucking just, train. Like, a lot of people don't understand why people say these things they do. People say these things they do because it's inherent, and it's almost like an inheritance of generational trauma. Like, just basically when you say get a job and you leave it at that, basically you're saying basically be a slave. Be a permanent fucking slave. Like, just get you a job, and leave it at that. And it's like, I mean, I ain't got nothing against people working. I mean, but to just leave it at that, it's just, I mean, it's all kinds of other opportunities. Don't get me wrong. Business is fucking hard. I'm still trying to figure this shit out. I'm trying to work these things out myself. But it's not impossible. Like, one of the things that I'm trying to learn right now, because I've had a business before, I've been self-employed before. You need to have some type of business system. You have to be system thinking, like not necessarily business, but system focus. Businesses are about systems, elaborate systems or basic systems, and systems that you can scale, you can, critique, you can, kind of like formulate depending on what you need and all of that type of stuff. There are systems though, that run on some type of, design that you don't necessarily have to be in that actual system to work it. It's a playbook. It's something that anybody can pick up and then learn. Like, like I'll never forget, like I worked for Tiger Direct. They had an actual handbook of everything from transactions to how do you do this and that, and it's all of this stuff was in this book. That was the actual business system playbook, right? You need to have something like that for a business, and then that business can be all over the world. Like, you can have that playbook be used everywhere, and these are the things that I'm trying to, kind of, try to figure out myself and trying to learn myself. And, those things kind of like help out with the whole trying to run a business thing, because when you trying to do it off of just a general business plan and just, trying to do everything, I mean, that's okay, but you need to try to think business in a system format and try to get funding together if you could, or build some money up and then just have it run like a machine where, you're just a system, a systems engineer. You've engineered this system. This system can run unique within itself with other employees that basically can be trained by others, and It's like, man, the business system is what is going to make the business. And these are the things that I'm learning. These are some type of advanced things that I'm picking up and trying to, figure out. And you know, I'm still formulating some things. But the point is that I'm not just, trying to work no job for the rest of my life. I mean, some people, if they're okay with that, I understand there's worker bees and all of that type of stuff, but you know, you gotta understand, there are some people that I think do want to be, you know, outside of just being a worker bee. I mean, worker bees need businesses, so they can work, right? The black community, a lot of people are out of work or doing other stuff because there's no work, there's no jobs, because there's no businesses. There's no business bees. I mean, so the worker bees got to beg other bees that don't look like them for jobs, so they can work, so they can make some money and start a business or something like that. And it's just a clog in the fucking machine. The clog in the machine is we have a culture of people that are all over the fucking place, not on code, don't have no type of understanding, no culture of business. When we got an ancient culture of business and it's in Africa, but you getting programmed and psyoped, to think that, Africa is not the way to focus. Fuck them Africans, you know, they don't like us and all of this type of goofy shit that you're being psyoped to think this way. Because you got to understand, Africa is, basically the hidden gem, it's the treasures, it's endless treasures and endless wealth in Africa. So you got to understand, why would people want me to not think about this? Why would people want to program me not to focus on this country or this continent? Well, the reason being is, obviously, it's very obvious, and the thing is that while you looking the other way, they're already over there. They're already over there making, tons and tons of money, trying to figure out how they can make more money. And the thing is that, you're trying to, figure out how to keep your job or get a job, because, in a state of continuous non-competitiveness, right? Not to diminish the people that are out there kicking ass and have businesses and have, systems that's running, and investors that's out there kicking ass. Black, I know it is, some black men and women that are out here kicking ass and taking names. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want to diminish those people that are doing it. But a lot of us are just kind of just stuck. And the reason why we're stuck, because we don't have any type of, unity. I say economic unity. We don't have any cultural viewpoints on business, like the Jews, like Asians, like Arabians, like Indians, right? They're very business centric, right? Business focused, money focused, finance focused. You know, um, it just kind of, like I say, we all over the place, and then we get stuck in traps where we gotta sell drugs, we gotta do legal shit because there ain't no jobs, because it ain't no businesses. You know what I'm saying? It's entire zip codes where ain't no the whole city might have like a couple businesses. It might have a gas station, a liquor store, or a grocery store maybe, or convenience store, where it ain't none of them businesses are owned by black people. All foreigners, immigrants, and that's a problem. That's a major problem. One of the things that I have to say about even the black community, even the upper middle class black communities in, I'll just say Illinois, because that's where I'm from. It ain't no different in Indiana. It's actually worse in Indiana because, black people from Indiana are primarily just kind of, they're mostly from Illinois. They're transplants from Illinois. And then if they've been in Indiana their whole life, they came from like first generation parents, blue collar workers, poor blue collar workers, pretty much. So they don't got no money in Indiana like that. Um, so the thing is that basically, even in the upper middle class black communities, you still have the element of foreigners in the neighborhood or city, um, basically with the businesses. The black people just live there and sleep and they have good jobs. That's why they live there. But they still got the same problem where you got all of these businesses and then very few black people that run them, that own them. And it's like, yeah, man, it's that's where I have the whole that's why I be looking at people that's, on the whole pro black tip with the side eye. Like, I'm definitely, it's like bullshit. It's like the whole thing, it's kind of very similar to black women talking about, you got to do this and you got to do that. And then you see who they actually date, you see who they actually have kids with, you see who they, be trying to hide their relationships with and shit like that. Like the chick talking about she got a problem with black men, and come to find out she dating a whole crip. You know what I'm saying? She dating a whole crip and shit. You know what I'm saying? Um, talking about all black men ain't shit, and it's like, yeah, you dating you broke it off with a crip. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course that didn't work out. He probably got locked up, and then you had to date somebody else. Like, I mean, it's like that's one element. And then a lot of black women are fucking like, they're fucking hypergamous because they want to be white women. They want to fucking wear Gucci, Prada, Louis, and all this other shit, and be lux baddies, and basically just be consumers, um high level consumers of basically European, brands, and just basically they want to make a bunch of money to buy shit from white people and try to be white, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, yeah, okay, you telling me I gotta make all this money so you can go buy all of this, so you can be a high level consumer, to buy a whole bunch of fucking white people shit, and it's like, yeah, man, fuck you too, okay, and I got to, that's the other side eye, right? And it's like, yeah, like both of these camps, like the whole, the both of these are like a dilemma, like where I'll be like, okay, on one end you talking about, people is oppressing you and all this other shit, and it's like, you can't even, who do you spend your money with on a day-to-day basis? Like, where do you go out your way to actually support black businesses? No, you going right to Habib and getting your fucking White Owls and your fucking backwoods at that gas station, and you going to these little pro black meetings, but y'all ain't talking shit about putting no money together and starting no goddamn business. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, it's a fucking problem. And that's why it's like, you looking at it from that look. When I look at it just like that. And then, like I say, black women talking about, you got to do this and you got to do that. Man, fuck you. You talking about, you want somebody to pay all of this and pay all of that so you can be basically a consumer, so you can keep shopping bags of all of these white companies that, basically, getting rich off of your fucking consumerism, and it's like, yeah, like that's the dilemma. Those two are one of the major dilemmas where I just be like, okay, fuck all of that shit. I mean, fuck that. Like, y'all just crazy talking about all these other problems. Y'all can't put a fucking dime together to start a dime store. You motherfuckers are fucking backwards. And I mean, it's like I just every now and again I just have to say, say the fucking obvious. And it's like, um, yeah, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I ain't got no choice but to be black, and I like being black, I like being African, but, y'all got some fucked up ass ways where, I'm looking at the chessboard and I don't know what kind of strategy y'all using. Y'all don't got no strategy. Y'all all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Y'all like, if you look at black community like a chessboard, the fucking, okay, your queen, she don't want to listen. So she on the other side of the chessboard trying to shop, trying to buy some shit. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get, she trying to divest and trying to get some money from some white man, because she don't want to listen to the black man, because he ain't got no power, and he worked for he worked for the other side, already, and then, shit, you got the bishop, he trying to fuck the queen, and the other bishop, he probably trying to fuck the king. I mean, it's just, the rook, shit, ain't no rook, the rook gone, because, renting an apartment, they renting an apartment on the other side of the chessboard. It's just this big ass quagmire, man. When you look at it just like, the chessboard, like, it's like, just, oh my God, the pawns, they don't want to listen because they think they supposed to be the king, you tell them to go move, they don't want to even move because, they got a power trip, shit, what, you my master? You ain't my master. What you talking about? They don't want to do what they need to do, and I mean, at night, he trying to kill the king. I mean, he gonna kill the king and take over the kingdom. He trying to take over the kingdom. I mean, it's just backwards, bro. I mean, it's just so fucking backwards, man. That's why it's like, yeah, like, it's like black people rent at a rate of 58%, 58 fucking percentile renters, long-term renters. That's why when motherfuckers talk about real estate, like, they just think it's foreign. Black people actually believe that real estate is damn near impossible to get. I mean, it's like, I think it's because a lot of black people, they have this concept where they're trying to be like pretentious and shit, trying to, especially like middle class black people. Middle class black people have it the worst because they actually trying to be really, they trying to be really trying to be rich. So if it's not a rich neighborhood or a desirable neighborhood, they don't want to live there. They don't want to buy no house there and fix it up or nothing like that. So so what they do is they rent in high class neighborhoods and shit like that, trying to fit in. And it's like, yeah, you don't get no fucking come up in doing that. When you rich, whoever you're making rich, you're either making yourself rich or you're making others rich. That's how this game works. That's how this works. And if you making other people rich, you will never be rich. That's how that works. Like, when you playing that game where you gonna rent in a neighborhood that's nice, and then you gonna drive a nice car, yeah, you just making other people rich. That's how that goes. Yeah, you making other people rich. And it's like, well, instead of doing that, you go get in where you fit in and you buy something where you could afford, and then you own a piece of property. Yeah, the neighborhood might be fucked up. It might be bad for your children to live there, and definitely go to school there. But here's the deal. The long-term thing is, yeah, you own this property. You can, fix it up, improve the neighborhood, improve the property. Very, very difficult. Not gonna say it's easy, but it's possible. And you ain't necessarily making nobody else rich. You're making yourself rich. Or you save up a little bit more and buy a property, maybe get a mortgage, which, mortgages are tricky if you don't pay it off soon, but you get a mortgage in a maybe a middle of the road type of neighborhood or whatever, not so bad. But I mean, the thing is that people doing all of these different transactions, and a lot of these transactions make other people rich, and it keeps people just kind of like in a perpetual state of brokenness, and it's in a state of non-competitiveness, and that's individual. That's like individual stuff, but it's a big group of people that's actually doing that. So a lot of people is doing that shit. These women trying to be, upscale. They want to follow all the Instagram baddies, and they getting a luxury apartment that's $5,000 a month or $4,000 a month, and then they buying all these bags and designer and all of this other shit. And it's like, yeah, that's not making yourself rich. That's maxing your credit cards out. Now you got credit card debt, you got all these bills, you got this lifestyle that you can't really sustain. You need a rich guy to help you sustain this life. And it's like, yeah, it's all of this dysfunction. All of this leads down to this 58th percentile renter rate with African Americans. And it's like, that's where I jump out the window or jump out the helicopter, and I remind you, I'm a financial expert. I know these things. I know these statistics. And you might look at it like I'm a dusty bum, but I own my house. I have a title to my house. And yeah, it might be in a fucked up neighborhood that you might think of or whatever. But me being a financial expert, I understand basic tenets of you either make yourself rich or you're making other people rich. No matter how you like it or don't like it, those are your choices, good or bad, depending on how much money you have. Like, whatever you have to work with, you either have a choice to make yourself rich or you're making someone else rich, right? And the thing is that a lot of people, they don't try to go out and seek any type of advice. They just following, what everybody else is doing. And I just pretty much I have to call it how I see it. Like I say, the whole pro black shit is just a bunch of people that's complaining, and they have the solutions already for the complaints by basically pulling their resources together. Pulling the resources together and actually learning, and the pulling the resources together, that could be just basically a knowledge build up of, okay, let's first try to learn as much as we can and teach each other about business, how to build businesses, and then those things don't really cost that much money, because it's people that probably within the group, that some people probably have business degrees. One person might have an MBA, and then they could, do workshops or teach people, and then you try to get some investors involved, or try to build credit, and get some business credit, and then, long story short, people will take you serious. The reason why the Asians are taken serious, because they're playing they're playing a game, and that game that they're playing is business, right? And economic, obviously international trade, because no, they don't diss their homeland. They don't diss their, people from their home country. They actually trade within their home country, and they do things like that, and they're taking serious because they have economic power, right? A lot of us are not taken serious because we don't have no economic power, because we begging people for jobs, and we don't have thriving businesses, because we don't even support each other. Real talk, we really hate each other, right? We have plantation mindsets, right? Like, people always talk about Dr. Shahrazad Ali's books about relationships, but she had other books where, like, for example, one of her books was "Are You Still a Slave?" Because a lot of black people have plantation hatred for each other. They still have plantation politics, where a lot of black people don't want to see other black people do well, and they really go out of their way not to support them, even talk shit about them. And meanwhile, other people, they're kissing up behind other people, non-black people, they kissing their ass, putting their whole check on, on the table and buying from them. And it's like, yeah, that's you're eating, you're consuming your suffering. You're actually, your consumption is suffering, right? Because all roads lead back to that, and you understand, like, while other people are doing well, they support each other, and it's like, okay, you're taught and programmed and psyop to not support each other and look at, the country of your origin as, a certain way that's not constructive and leads you to not want to deal with those people in that continent. Yeah, that's why you're eating your own demise. You're consuming in your own financial destruction. And everything. And like, it's like right now we're in a time where you need money for damn near everything. You damn near need money to breathe now. And it's like, yeah, you're complaining about all these other things, but you're not even doing the basis of, like, basic stuff of what other people are doing. White people get oppressed by other white people. They don't really support each other. They have classes and classism and stuff like that, but they still white. They still, a lot of them just kind of do some foolish stuff. They do a lot of drugs and shit like that, but they still have, a certain level of privilege, even though they don't think of themselves as having that privilege. But the same thing that black people have to deal with is the same type of element, but worse, because they don't have any type of motion going on. Most black people come from families where the entire family is broke. It might even be worse than that, right? And it's like, no businesses, communities with no businesses equal no jobs, right? So what's left of that is poverty, violence, crime, and unemployment, and it's like, yeah, that's what you eat. Every time you complain and you spending money all over the place, you're not either yourself trying to improve it, meaning you trying to form some type of coalition and start some business, or partner with somebody like that, like my grandfather partnering with one of his childhood friends or whatever to start a business. You're eating poverty. Your daily activities and behaviors are basically poverty, unemployment, and crime, and violence, because frustration and just not wanting, like, just the daily frustrations and trying to make money is violent crime, unfortunately. And it's like, I mean, like I say, the whole pro black thing is mute. If you don't have pro black with added economic, some type of economic system, some type of thriving economic system or solution, your pro black don't mean shit. It don't mean nothing to me. You just a bunch of bums having conversations at the end of the day. And that's what I realized. I realized that decades ago, and that's why I don't even really listen to all that goofy shit, because it's like, it's goofy. Because if you don't have any type of capitalist system, like, I offer my book, The Millionaire Savings Plan, that's a solution to this capitalistic system. If you don't have any type of solution, you're good. You just basically talking, just a bunch of bums talking. At the end of the day, it might be some beneficial conversations, but it's just a bunch of bums talking if you ain't got no economic solution. Because this is an economic system. This is a capitalistic system. The whole world is based off of economics. It's a bunch of countries with economies, and if you don't have any type of capitalistic solution or economic solution, it's just, it just nothing but bum talk. Because at the end of the day, again, your daily actions and behaviors are 58% rentile, basically all roads, all your money, just basically going to other people, making them richer, and it's like, yeah, if in your fate is poverty, unemployment, and crime, and I mean, I just have to, kind of be the messenger, or to remind you of this. I know it's not tough. It's not inspirational conversation. I mean, I believe it is to a lot of people. I don't know how this delivery or how you take it. I mean, to me, it is. I mean, because a lot of people want to lie to you or tell you something else. To me, I believe this conversation is very therapeutic, because a lot of people are disillusioned and kind of stuck, and don't really know how to formulate their thought to think about why this shit is all fucked up, especially the young people, because they still trying to figure this stuff out. But nevertheless, I mean, yeah, this is how I look at it, the whole pro black stuff. I mean, I don't take it serious if you don't got no economic solution. You ain't got no economic unity, your pro black don't mean nothing. That, you could look at the Nation of Islam. They had some type of economic solution, meaning open up, businesses and food distribution and stuff like that. I mean, it's an example of what worked, um, I can't, and there's other businesses or groups, that did the same thing, so like I say, at the end of the day, we all got families and children, and I'll say from, what Dr. Claude Adams has said, it's absolutely a crime to basically have children and push your children to go out and get jobs. All your children, your solution to them is just go out and get jobs, and not have communities with thriving businesses and certain elements such as hospitals, clinics, banks, and other industries, to actually have some type of commercial structures, that basically feed a community's economy, so I mean, that's all I have. Tried to keep this as short as possible. Yeah, it's just, something that I think we all need to work on.